So what's the fastest way to increase mental clarity? Increasing your mental clarity is basically a path to solving all of your biggest problems, whether it's financial problems, not having a sense of purpose. Now, there's a lot of ways to increase your mental clarity. There's exercising, lowering your sugar intake, meditation, staying hydrated, right? All of those are going to raise your level of mental clarity. But if we want to do something that's going to make a big impact on our mental clarity, if we want to take a giant leap forward in terms of the clarity of our thinking, what can we do? Well, that's what we're going to cover in this video. So let's get into it. It makes sense to want to start thinking more clearly sooner rather than later. Why? Because you have to make choices all throughout your day. You're making choices about what to put in your body, who to spend time with, what you spend money on. You're making long-term plans, big financial commitments. You're making a lot of really important decisions. It makes sense that you want to be thinking straight when you're making those decisions. Not thinking clearly will cause you to make worse decisions than you would if you were thinking clearly, right? So when it comes to taking a big jump with regards to mental clarity, what can you do? Well, my experience has shown me that it comes down to how you deal with your emotions. There's a great Buddhist teacher named Pema Chodron. Pema has a lot of talks on YouTube and a number of books she's written. A central theme in her teaching is how we deal with uncomfortable emotions. When it comes to uncomfortable emotions, most of us respond to them by immediately trying to move away from them. If we could get up and run away from them, we would, but our emotions are inside of us, so we have to do something else in order to disconnect from them. Pema says avoiding the discomfort of feeling those unpleasant emotions can lead to a cycle of suffering, while embracing that discomfort can lead to freedom and self-acceptance. Now, that freedom and self-acceptance that Pema is referring to, that's part of the experience of thinking more clearly. One of the results of mental clarity, of enhanced mental clarity, is self-acceptance. What I've found is that nothing has caused a bigger shift in the clarity of my thinking than identifying the things I turn to when I want to get away from uncomfortable emotions. Basically, when I think of something that brings up an unpleasant emotion for me, what is it that I suddenly feel a craving for? Now, I'll tell you that one of the first things I identified for myself was alcohol. Now, when I used to drink, I was always a weekend drinker. I'd drink on Friday night and Saturday night. And there were plenty of times when I didn't drink to get away from my uncomfortable emotions. But the truth is that I usually drank when I was in social situations, like at a party or a bar or a club. And I'd have a drink for the same reason most people have a drink in those settings, to get away from social anxiety and my insecurities. So I was using alcohol to disconnect from my uncomfortable emotions. I experienced a big level up in my mental clarity when I stopped drinking alcohol. Now, another thing that I recognized that I used was marijuana. I used marijuana in social settings to get away from the same emotions, anxiety, insecurities. But I'd also use marijuana when I was on my own and I wanted to get away from my negative self-talk. Now, when I got to a place when I had stopped drinking and stopped smoking weed, I started observing what else I had a craving for when I felt something that I didn't want to feel, right? So there's no alcohol in my home, there's no marijuana in my home, I'm at home, I feel an uncomfortable emotion. What is it now that I'm feeling an urge for? And the thing that I discovered for myself that I had an urge for was porn. It was a fascinating realization to come to. I think in my mind, I had always thought that I would get horny and then look at porn. But when I really paid attention to myself and observed myself, I realized that that never happened. What was happening was I'd think of something that I didn't want to think about or feel something that I didn't want to feel, and then suddenly I'd feel this urge to look at porn. And I think it kind of comes back to the male brain. You know, if you put boobs in front of it, everything else gets pushed to the periphery. So porn made all my feelings, both negative and positive, and all my thoughts, both negative and positive, get pushed to the sidelines for the period that it was in front of me. You know? Now, you might have some of these things. You might have others. You might listen to music or TV really loud, so you can drown out the thought or the feeling you don't like. Maybe you're somebody who wants to talk, because some people want to call up a friend or get around other people so that the voices of others and the act of actually talking distracts them from the uncomfortable feeling, right? There's a lot of ways to go about doing it. The thing is that whatever that thing is that you're doing, that thing is limiting your mental clarity. Now, why is it limiting your mental clarity? Well, a big reason is that it's taking you out of the present moment. You're never thinking more clearly than you are when you're right here, right now, in the present moment. And sometimes being in the present moment means being present and feeling something that you don't want to feel. Sometimes that's what you're doing in the present moment. You think of an ex who cheated on you and it makes you feel sad and angry. Or maybe you were the one who cheated and you feel ashamed. Either way, you need to stay present and you need to feel that. Also, if we're going to be real here, something like alcohol, why is that affecting your mental clarity? Well, it's bad for your brain. So that's another reason with that one. Now, the thing I always find is that if you sit with that uncomfortable, unpleasant, awful feeling, it sucks. It sucks, and then it sucks a little less, and then it sucks a little less, and a little less, and eventually you have gone through the experience of feeling that emotion, and you can just continue on with your day. You've felt the emotion, now you can move on. Feeling that emotion doesn't mean you have to feel it forever. You just have to feel it and experience it. So if we really want to increase our mental clarity quickly, it's pretty straightforward. Think of something that you really don't like to have to think about. Think of something that brings about an uncomfortable emotion. Then pay attention to what it is you want to reach for or get up and go do. Once you identify what that is, you need to eliminate that. Now, this is the part no one likes to hear, right? Listen, I can tell you that when you realize that alcohol is one of the things you want to reach for, that all you need to do is drink less. I can tell you that, and drinking less will have an impact, but the biggest impact will come if you just let it go. And the same goes for porn or whatever your thing is. Cutting back has some impact, and maybe that'll be your process, to ultimately letting go is, you cut back, wean yourself off of it. But just so you know, cutting it out or getting to that point where you're done with it is where you experience a very profound, significant shift in your thinking. The things that we use to get away from our feelings are preventing us from thinking more clearly, and they're holding us back. They're keeping us in a headspace where we can't see the real causes of our problems. We get stuck in this place where we're always dealing with the same problems over and over again. We get stuck in this place where we're always taking a step forward and then a step back. If we eliminate one of these things we're using to get away from our feelings, we'll experience a major shift in our thinking. You'll experience a major shift in the way you see yourself and experience being you. And you'll see possibilities and opportunities that you never saw before.